Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship, brought to you by Z1 Simwheel. Go to z1simwheel.com where you can find the LCD display and LCD display software. You can get all these excellent dashboards mounted to your sim rig or on another computer, as in addition to a great offering of wheels that they have. So find it all at z1simwheel.com. I'm Daniel Quaroni, and with me here are Brian Carey.
Hello, everyone.
And Anthony Muniz.
Great to be back for another race with you.
Yeah, this is Season 9, Race 5 at Sebring. We've just had our 2-week break, and now we're back to racing. Looking at the points, we've got James Cullen leading in the HPD, with Brian Carey just 7 points behind. Anthony Muniz trailing also there from 4 points down from Brian. Big jump down to Dimas Milana, and then a pretty good scrum there, 4th, 5th. Well, you can see 5th and 6th tied, and 7th just 1 point down. Jeremy Burris also not too far down in 8th. Russell Cow is leading in the Radicals with 75 points. Colin McLean trails by a fair margin, but Lauren Bateman is still in contention for that 2nd spot. John Kuzlin and Mike Kelly look like they're going to battle it out for 4th, although Mike Taylor's not too far back from the 5th spot. Finally, in Ford GT, Todd Carver leading with tied. I got to look at this closer. Tied with Eduardo Benica with 73 points each. Daniel Gralty 8 points down in 3rd. Then we've got Corey Davis and Timothy Stoll battling out 4th and 5th, and then a scrum for 6th through 10th. Brian takes us around this very bumpy track.
Yeah, Sebring is a old airfield that's been converted to a racetrack, not unlike Silverstone, except Silverstone very smooth, this one very bumpy. We're running here in the daytime. We normally run the nighttime in the ISRA, but because Radical doesn't have headlights, that's the way we went this year. So a few places to look at. The hairpin, turn number 7. It's going to be a lot of action there, big passing place. Le Mans, turn number 16 is very, very important, very difficult to get right. Leads you onto the Ullman straight down into Sunset Boulevard, jeez, I need to give my head a shake. Sunset Bend. Turn number 17, they're very, very difficult, and like Dan said, very, very bumpy, so that's going to be, that and turn 1 are very difficult corners to master.
James Cullen takes pole in the HPD at 144.9. Andy Fuller next to him in 2nd. Brian Carey, Troy Harder on row 2, Jeremy Burris and Dimas Milana on row 3, Mike Young and Anthony Muniz are on 4, and John Kelly and Daniel Quaroni are on the 5th row.
All right, Radicals, there's apparently the trailer got lost on the way down to Florida. They ended up in Texas somewhere. So Russell Cow on the pole, 156.2 basically. John Kuzlin alongside the front row, Julio Palacio and Mike Kelly on row number 3. Carl Mumbar and Lauren Bateman in row 2, then row 3, Carl Mumbar and Laura Bateman, and then Mark Perez, I think, will be starting somewhere from the interstate.
And then for the Ford GTs, Timothy Stoll took the pole with a 159.7. Daniel Gralty was in 2nd, and he'll start alongside. Howard McMillan and Eduardo Beninca will be on the 2nd row with Corey Davis and James Mines on the 3rd. John Rosettos and Renee Weisflug will be on the 4th row with Matthew Voigt, and I believe that was Don... Sorry, I messed it up. Dan Morera, sorry. Yes, Dan Morera will be finishing out the top 10 there for the 4 GTs.
Yeah, I had it easy there with only 7 Radicals to read off. So, yeah, I was going to see here, it's kind of like, actually, I'm not exactly sure where on the track we are right now. And I apologize because I don't commit all the corner numbers to memory. I'm going to have to count
backwards. This is coming up to Le Mans, I think. That was the right hand.
Turn 10, I think, actually.
Well, these guys
10.
are.
Or turn 13, rather. Tower.
Yeah, no. The other guy, we're not up at Le Mans yet. Very, very tight. See the track, a lot of the places in the track too, it's very narrow right here, but in a lot of places it's very, very wide. The front straight in particular, very wide, which funnels into turn 1, which narrows really sharply on exit. So at the start of the race, you really have to be careful because it looks like you can go easily 2-3 wide. You get halfway through the corner on the limit of the car where you can't alter your trajectory at all, and then suddenly the track goes away on you, so you have to be very, very careful there. As you have Carl Mumbauer, and it looks like...
Lauren Bateman, I think that is.
Is it Lauren? Okay.
You can see the back of the 4 GTs making their way through the turn 16 Le Mans corner right now.
Yeah, it's just a really, really hard one to spot, and because it ends up in such a long straightaway, it becomes very, very difficult and very important. So we'll pay attention to that during the race. Pay attention to this coming up here, Sunset Bend, as well as Turn 1, which will obviously be the first one after the straightaway.
And they are turning onto where it starts to get extremely bumpy onto the concrete paving slabs. The pace car is turning into the pits right now, and we are about to get underway.
James Cullen gets a huge jump there. Andy Fuller, newcomer to the ISRA in the GTC. He is our reigning, actually double Grand Prix championship champion. Looks like everyone's getting through okay. A little bit of squirreliness there in the back of the pack, but everything seems to be going okay. As you can see,
Side-by-side action there. Yeah, that's a few guys going side-by-side going into Turn 3, trying to fight out for positions. Mike Young loses a spot to Troy Harder there as they headed through Turn 5, and Mike Young's going to be right under the rear wing as they head down into the hairpin. Passing opportunity right here as they head into the braking zone. You can see Troy Harder just closing down on the nose of Mike Young as he makes his way to the apex of the hairpin and maintains on that top 5 position. And a little bit further back down the field, there's a couple cars that are still scrambling for positions, but most everyone has gone into single file now into Turn 7 or 10.
Oh, and that was John Kelly backwards. Not ideal, but it doesn't look like he's hit anything. I think he just spun it out there. So Anthony Newt there, lucky to avoid him with my other colleague Dan Corney there close behind. I've got a nice nose camera view here from Dimas Marwana as he's chasing down Mike Young.
And Turn 10 is a very easy spot to spin this LMP car. So we take a look at, I believe that is Lauren Bateman, who is still sitting in pit lane. I'm not sure why he didn't take the green flag, but he's quite a ways back now because of that. But Turn 10, oh, you can see he gets going now. Turn 10 is, I'm not sure why it is, the corner isn't off camber or anything like that, but it is very tempting to get too hard on the accelerator pedal and easily lose the car there, especially in the LMP. And we're taking a look at the new driver for Kaiser Rennsport. That's Corey Davis joining the team, and he is chasing down James Mines, and this is a battle for 5th spot in the Ford GT class as I head down into the very, very bumpy Turn 17 Sunset Bend.
Yeah, there's actually a line. If you get it kind of about 2 car widths off the apex, you can avoid the worst of the bumps. Right against the wall there on the inside, there's a big bump, and there's also a little further outside, there's a really big bump, and you really want to try to see if you can thread the needle through there to actually get a better run if you're able to do that. It's just really hard to spot because you really can't see the bumps until you get there.
And riding on board the front nose of Mike Young's LMP cars, you can see they're making their way through. I believe that was Lauren Bateman's Radical, who was started quite who's from the pit lane. And here is battle between Daniel Quilroni and Brent Briles. This is a fight for 10th or 9th place rather in the LMP class. You can see Briles all over the rear wing of Quilroni as they head through turn 10. Both drivers able to get the power down nicely, heading down towards turn 13. And it looks like Quilroni going to be able to hold on to that spot for now. But Briles looking quite racy in the early stages of the race, as is Mike Young. He's looking to take that spot back from Troy Harder. This is a battle for 5th place. And they're going to be coming up to that crucial turn 16 right here. It's Le Mans heading down onto the Ullman Straight. This is pretty important to get the maximum top speed that you can heading down into turn 17. Looks like both drivers got through it fairly evenly, and they'll head their way. Draft not having a huge effect. You can see Mike Young just a bit pulling on the rear of Harder, but not really having a very big effect for these LMP cars. And so that's why it is crucial to get the maximum top speed you can coming out of turn 16.
Looks like Gilles Moret. Wait, who is that?
It is Gilles Moret,
and he's number 15.
Yeah, he's doing a little off-roading there coming out of turn 17, getting a little too tight around that corner, losing some speed on Lance Snyder, and he'll drop a little bit further down the field, and I believe he is running in 13th currently, so he's got a little bit of work to do to catch his way back up the field.
Yeah, just Gilles Moret normally running the 31 there. He grabbed the 15, thus Daniel Gralti normally the 15. He's got the 16 because that number wasn't available to him, so he's currently in second place, all over the back of Timothy Stoll right now. But we're not going to watch that. We're going to watch Dimas Maluna chasing down Mike Young and Troy Harder.
Dimas has a great run as they head down into turn 10. He gets a nice move on the inside, gets it done under braking. It's a good spot to try and make him pass like that. He had a great run coming down towards the corner, was able to get alongside and had the pass done under braking. Into the Radical class now. This is John Kuzlin, and he is trying to hold off Mike Kelly. This is a fight for second place in the Radical class, and Mike Kelly in the number 2 Turn 1 Heroes Racing machine, with John Kuzlin in the number 27 CTC Racing Radical, and those guys are very, very close together. You can see the class leader, Russell Cow, just in front of them too. So this is basically a three-way fight for the Radical class, albeit the Radical class quite small here at Sebring.
Our first look here at Jeremy Burris. Very close look at Jeremy Burris as Troy Harder tries to come underneath him. Jeremy not getting a great run through that corner, allowing Troy to catch up. But this is a battle for fourth position right now. When I said a battle for fourth position, that's going to involve Troy Harder, Mike Young, and we lost someone there. Did we lose someone?
Yeah, we lost Dimas Marlana, who we're looking on the front nose right now. It looks like he had some sort of drama in turn 17. Very easy place to make a mistake there, and he's fallen down all the way to, out of the top 12. And so he's had quite a big issue there, and he's lost a lot of time. Not sure if he had to make a dive for the pits or not, but he's lost a lot of time.
We have Corey Davis here under the rear wing of James Mines. He had a good run out of going into Le Mans, but unfortunately wasn't able to get a good run coming out of Le Mans, and he was still behind going through Sunset here, but he takes a tighter line, and we'll see if this yields any results. Two very valid lines, and both could be equally as fast, but it looks like Corey Davis might have had the momentum and takes the position up to fourth place.
And you can see the rest of the 4 GTs not too far ahead. The current leader still Timothy Stahl, and we saw Daniel Gralty fighting with him early in the race. He was right under the rear wing of Stahl within the opening couple laps, but Gralty having some sort of issue, I believe it was possibly turn 1, and he has fallen well down the field, and I believe he has received damage, so he is no longer contending for that top spot. Eduardo Benica, meanwhile, moves up into P2 with Howard McMillan, who we haven't seen really up the 4GT field so far this season. He is running in a strong third position so far.
There's not a lot separating. It looks like the top 8 in the 4GTs are with about 8.5 seconds apart, so I mean, that's pretty close. I mean, they're all basically within sight of one another. The Radicals here, Russell Cow, you can see him a couple of seconds up the road. So coming around, looks like Carl Mumbauer. He's already got a lap down, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Mumbauer starting from the pits, not exactly sure why that decision was made or what caused the him having to start from the pits along with Lauren Bateman. So he is unfortunately going to be not really battling for a position, but just hoping that some of these guys will have issues throughout the race and he can make up positions based on attrition. But right now we're on board the front nose of John Kuzin, and can't really see the current leader, Russell Cowell, who was a small speck up there in the front going into turn 17. But Mike Kelly gets the pass on Kuzlin going into the first part of turn 17. That takes away second spot for Kuzlin, and that was a well done pass, well executed pass there by Mike Kelly for second place.
Yeah, I think part of the reason too, you're only seeing, whoa, there's Troy Harder. Oh, and that's, wow, that's peak right there. That's Troy Harder's sponsor in your face and into the front nose, unfortunately, of looked like Mike Young.
Yeah, there's Troy Harder there off in the grass. Mike Young also very slow. Currently looks like he still has the front nose on that car, so he might not have received too much damage, but he's going to lose quite a bit of time. You can see here in shot we're watching right now Danny Qualroni and Brent Briles. They're still battling for the same position, although they are up a couple spots now because of those guys taking each other out. So hopefully both of those drivers will continue. We're riding on board with John Kelly, who's moved himself up a couple spots because of that incident. He is currently running in 12th place at the moment. Remember, he had that early spin in that very corner, actually. So turn 10, difficult corner seems like for the LMP drivers so far this race.
All right, and like I was saying, the probably reason we're not seeing as many Radicals around here before we were interrupted by the side of Troy's car was the Radicals in iRacing, unfortunately, don't handle the bumps all that well, and Sebring is a very, very bumpy track, so many guys, like I said, they got lost in the interstate. They might have got lost on purpose. Just not a these guys that are here are very good enough to brave it out. Very, very difficult, and it'll be very, very stressful. 10 minutes down, there's 65 to go, and be white knuckle each and every one of them.
And we're watching Lance Snyder and Gilles Moret as they battle it out for the 10th spot in the LMP class. And Moret looking to make up another spot on Snyder. Seems to have pretty good pace. He's made up quite a bit of the gap that was separating him from Snyder. And let's see if he can't make a move going down into the hairpin. He's pretty close, but it doesn't look like he's going to be quite close enough to make a dive up the inside. And Snyder will hold on to that position for a couple more corners.
It looks like John Kelly's kind of inching back into the picture there. You can see him just coming in, just shot in the background there. We have Brent Bryles underneath the rear wing of Daniel Coroni, who's moved up to 6th position in all that, call it chaos in the LMP field there.
Oh, and that's Mike Young, so he is still running in the field. He is currently being shown in 8th place, so he has lost a bit of time because of that incident, but looks like he's still racing, so that's good to see. He just hopefully he's able to make up some time and not too damaged from that incident earlier. Meanwhile, battle is still quite close between Bryles and Quaroni as they fight it out for 6 spots. Also, just about the same distance apart from each other is Lance Snyder and Gilles Moret. Those guys are also very, very close as they fight it out for a top 10 position in the LMP class.
All right, Gilles very aggressive there on the inside of Sunset. Unfortunately, he didn't time his run all that well and had to check up. That's cutting all the speed that he had gained on Lance going through the corner, and now does not have a run on him going to turn 1. So we'll see how he does going turn 1. Oh, he dodged to the inside. That was bold. Looks like Lance saw him coming and let him through, but I just know from experience driving through the corner there, you do not slow up a heck of a lot for turn 1 there in the LMP. You just kind of breathe the gas, let the car roll into the corner, and then hard as you can go through. And Corey Davis has brought himself up to 3rd place, man. Howard McMillan, it looks like he's going to make a run at taking that position away from Howard.
And Howard had a little bit of a bobble there coming out of turn 13. That allowed Davis to catch right up to the rear bumper of his Ford GT, but he managed to recover nicely, and he's holding on to that third place position in his class, so that should be turning into a good battle. And the battle between Bryles and Quaroni still very, very close. You can see Bryles basically getting as close as he dares to the back of Dan's car as they head through turn 13. Right now looks like Quaroni a little bit faster through that section and able to gain a little bit of a gap, give himself a little bit of breathing room. And these guys are getting pretty close to the back of the Ford GTs, so traffic is probably going to start playing a factor here in a couple laps for these guys.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing to talk about in the beginning of the broadcast, is how the traffic plays in on this track. There's a few places on the track where you catch up a slower car, and it's really not a problem at all, in the LMPs at least, to get around them. Nice and wide, you're able to go around, say, the outside of Sunset, for instance. You're easily able to drive around there much, much faster. But then there are other areas, too, which kind of narrow up and kind of snake back on themselves. A few left-right bends that are extremely difficult to get around. So depending on where you catch up those slower cars can make a big difference on if you're able to hold position or gain time on your rivals.
Yeah, getting held up going through turns 3, 4, and 5, especially, you can lose, I think, upwards of 2 seconds if you're stuck behind a Ford GT, just because of the difference in cornering speeds that you have from the two classes, like the LMP and the Ford GT. That's actually the section I'm talking about right here. You're definitely going to lose a lot of time if you get stuck behind a Ford GT there. Radical, not quite as much, because they do have better cornering speeds. Ooh, and that is, I believe that's Jerry Morsdorf getting very out of shape there, coming out of turn 5. Probably had some oversteer. Is able to correct it and stay out of the tire barrier there on the left-hand side of the circuit, but he's going to lose a position to Gilles Moret.
Yeah, also a very easy thing to do right there.
Yeah, no, that's one that coming out of that, I guess, that turn 5 there into the sweeper of turn 6 and the hairpin of turn 7. It's a very, very interesting corner, just like how it kind of tightens up around the apex, which means you really have to kind of pitch the car, and you get a lot of understeer up to the apex, and as soon as you come out of the apex, the car very easily transitions to oversteer, and I think that's exactly what you saw happen to Jerry there as he came out of the corner. As we're starting to split around, so, there's 4 GTs, that's Stephen Clark, just wondering what the heck hit him right there. He just cars on either side of him, but he looks like he's gotten through it, and a little easier to let Troy Harder by, but John Kelly is quickly making his way back up through the field. You can remember from our last race at Infineon, unfortunately it was John Kelly and James Cullen and then one other driver. I don't remember who it was exactly, but they had a little bit of a high-flying incident there going through the S-bends at Infineon.
And John Kelly makes a dive move on the first part of turn 17, gets past Lance Snyder easily as they had exit the corner, and basically I think that Lance gave him that position. Looked like he was quite a bit faster. Oh, and that is, I believe that was Howard McMillan off there at exiting turn 5 that allows Corey Davis. I'm not sure if he was past or not, but if he was still in front, that allowed Corey Davis to get by and take that third position. Here's a very close battle between Jeremy Burris and Brian Carey. This is for third place in the LMP class, and it's very close between those two drivers. Second place, Andy Fuller, a little bit further ahead, about a second and a half of Brian Carey, so he's managed to build himself up a little bit of comfort between Carey, but Carey right now under pressure from Jeremy Burris as they fight it out for the last of the podiums. Oh, and there's a big crash right there. That is, I believe that was Jerry Morsdorf in the LMP, and I believe that was Tim McLeish in the Ford GT. They had some sort of incident. Looked like because of the bent rear wing on that Ford GT of McLeish, there was locked up the brakes possibly and ran into the back of them, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think we'll have to make sure for next broadcast. This is the generic paint scheme for Andy Fuller there. He's new to the series, and he did not upload his paint scheme to our series for us to see it, but I assure you it looks a little bit different when you're racing him live. At least it does from my screen anyway. We'll get that to you for next week. Well, not next week because he won't be there next week, but the week after that. Hopefully he'll be able to, after missing 1 week, be able to finish up the season with us, but it's a battle for second, third, and fourth right now.
Yeah, the bit of comfort gap that I had said that he built up over Brian Carey and Jeremy Burris has basically been erased, and it's now become a three-way battle for second place. We're riding on board with Troy Harder right now as he is looking to work his way back up the LMP field after having that spin in turn 10. He is going around the outside of Dan Morera, I believe that was within the Ford GT, and he's looking to pass Lance Snyder for 11th place in the LMP class.
It's going to be one of those, like I said, we noticed before that I was saying the top 8 of the Ford GTs are more spread out now, but they were bunched in together, about 8 of them within about 8 seconds apart. So when that first round of LMPs went flying through there, it'd be Ford GT after Ford GT after Ford GT, and it's you get into a little bit of a rhythm, but it becomes pretty intense there for a couple laps. As we're on board the front nose here with Troy Harder, just see the different lines that he takes with regard to Lance Snyder, see how he's able to try to work a potential pass here. Looks like he has a little bit of speed on Lance Snyder, but not a lot. Lance being very good to hit all his marks here and make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, and if he does that, then Troy will have a difficult time to get by. Looks like they'll clear the, looks like that's Matthew Voigt up ahead in the number 25 Ford GT. Oh, he didn't quite get ahead of him, so it's going to be a chance for Troy Harder to take advantage of that slower car up ahead as they go through Le Mans onto the straightaway towards Sunset.
And really not a lot of room for Harder to be able to use the momentum that he had over Lance Snyder to be able to get by and make that pass attempt. He gets a little bit held up there by the Ford GT. Didn't really have any room to use that extra momentum, and he's going to have to stay behind for at least a couple more corners as Lance Snyder maintains that 11th position. Also looks like Troy Harder might be lacking a little bit in top speed. It looks like Lance is able to build a bit of a gap as they were on the longer straightaways there. And I think that's possibly down to the bit of aero damage that he has on the side pod. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it's affecting his the aerodynamic efficiency he has in the corners. The front nose looks nice and clean, but I think that side must just be affecting his top speed a little bit. Looks like he has a chance here. It's a nice run over Rene Weisflug there in the NVIDIA 4GT, but doesn't really have the room and you can see just because where they caught him, he didn't have a chance to take a dive up on the inside of Lance Snyder, so he's looks like he might have a little bit more pace than Snyder, but he's going to have to be a little bit more. He's going to have to use a little more strategy to find his way past, I think.
Be more calculating, if you will.
Yeah.
We could probably throw in some adjectives. We could throw some other things in there, but we'll just let you watch the battle on track here. As we're going to try to find the way around John Rosettos and the back to being the number 8 Windows 8 car.
Looks like there might be an opportunity here with the left-hander coming up, not quite going through wide, and not going to be able to make it. Nope.
There's that. John's car was there, so there wasn't going to be a lot of big chance for trying to make a move there, but we'll see how things go into the straightaway here. If you get a really big run going through here, and Lance gets checked up, which he did a little bit, but it looked like Troy had to check out of it just a little bit himself to make sure he didn't run up the back of Lance's car.
And you can see it looks like the gap is building, so I think Harder is lacking that overall top speed that Lance Snyder has, and I think that's just going to make things a little bit more difficult for him because Snyder able to build a little bit of a gap, and then a lot of the more twisty bits of the circuit where Harder seems to be faster than Lance, that's where he's making that gap back up.
And just an interesting fact with Lance Snyder's car there, if you get a little closer and you can hear the engine, you hear a few notes of some heavy bass and pretty sweet guitar riffs as you go around that car. So the mechanics were able to tune the engine just so. Actually, another known fact too is most of his mechanics were roadies for Iron Maiden back in the day. So write that one down in your spectator guides there.
Well, that explains why his rear wing's facing the wrong direction.
No, I think that's the groupies. They're in charge of the aerodynamics.
Oh, I don't know. I heard a story once from They Might Be Giants. Actually, it was hired stage crew that they had at a particular venue had just come off of a show that they had done overnight, and they were still drunk from that night. They hadn't gotten any sleep and decided that wasn't a really safe situation, as we've got Corey Davis.
Speaking of drunk.
Getting a little bit off and squirrely.
Looks like he should be able to hold it off here.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it's going to give Howard McMillan a chance to get right back up and challenge for that third place again. Davis had built a little bit of a gap over McMillan, but now that has closed right back up, as the gap is still pretty close here between Lance Snyder and Troy Harder.
That was coming around the second place 4GT driver of Eduardo Benica.
And you can see pretty visibly here as Lance gets smaller and smaller up there in the full background.
And then really big.
Foreground, I suppose. Blends in with the background as he gets farther away.
Yeah, Lance being a little cautious there in turn one. You can see he's taking a different line than I think a lot of the LMPs are, and using a brake, his brakes there, dab of brakes as he makes the turn in, and a little bit different than a lot of the LMPs, at least that I was watching during the practice sessions. Here's the battle in 4GTs right now. It's Howard McMillan trying to see if he can't chase back down Corey Davis for that third spot in the 4GT class. And the gap is about 0.4 of a second and closing in. So it's a good battle in here. Looks like he's going to take a little look there on the inside. Corey Davis able to take his braking a little bit later and maintains that position. You can see it looks like one of the LMPs, I believe that was John Kelly, a little out of shape there and taking his braking a little bit too late going into the hairpin.
Oh, Troy Harder there, just really, really wide there on turn 10. Missed the apex completely. Looked like he got up a little bit on the curb there under braking. He was able to hold onto the car, but although he was able to keep touch with Lance Snyder there, I don't think he was all too happy with that corner. But that being said, he's getting a good run heading into Le Mans. We'll see if he's able to take advantage of this. Now what he's going to have to do here, I don't think he's going to have enough and down the straightaway to get to Lance Snyder. We're talking about that earlier with his top speed. But if he can set him up just right and get a good run through Sunset, maybe he can just get a better run through Sunset and actually get him right on the exit of Sunset if he does it just right. But he's going really wide. Lance is going a lot shallower, and see if he can pull it down to the inside. And not quite. So he probably won't have enough to get through turn 1, but maybe into turn 2. Or 3, or whatever it is. This is turn 1 coming up.
Well, this is the closest he's been entering turn 1 to Lance, but still no dice. Lance pulling out some speed there and taking a little bit more of a chance than he had been.
Yeah, it looked like Troy was washing up pretty bad. I mean, these LMPs do get some pretty good arrow push when you're right up behind them in their car there. And turn 1 being very, very high speed, that effectively pronounced there, so doesn't look like he was able to get a good enough run through that corner.
And Howard McMillan taking all the track that he can, and then some, going through turn 1, trying to get as much speed as he can over Corey Davis. They're still fighting it out for 3rd place as they make their way coming out of turn 5. I think there was a couple LMPs behind, so they might play a factor into that. Might be able to follow one of the LMPs by to get around Davis. But you can see Trey Harder really all over the back of Lance Snyder. Almost got alongside him there, but Lance Snyder still holding out that 9th position now. So it looks like they've moved up a spot or 2 from what I'm guessing would be retirements.
Yeah, you can see the peak on the side of the peak logo on the side of Troy's car. He's just smushed like a pop can. It is pretty dented. That side not as bad, but I think Mike's car pretty much rearranged the front of that. And just a note that Mike is out of the top 12 right now. So.
Yep, I think he has retired his car, and also I believe I saw John Kelly having another incident somewhere on track, and these guys were able to get past. So I think that is why their battle has elevated up to 9th position, which is good for these 2 drivers.
Yeah, you'll notice John in the background there, probably in a second or 2 coming through turn 1. Or not. Looks like he's possibly suffered some damage because he looks like he's dropping further and further behind. Actually, no, he's 21 seconds behind, so he is well back of that battle now. And John Rosettos and Renee Weissvlog is, looks like they're battling hard for 6th position.
Ooh, and a bit of tire smoke and someone in the wall
Howard
there.
No, it's Howard. Not. That was James Mines, wasn't it?
Nope, that's Howard. Definitely Howard. Howard's dropping down the order like a stone.
And John
for Howard, he was running really well.
Indeed he was. Yeah, that was a falling out of 4th place. And John Rosetto's making a nice move there on Renee Weissvlog coming out of turn 1, gets a nice run on the inside, able to get by as they head down into turn 3. So a good pass there for Rosetto's. That moves him up into 5th spot after taking the position from Weissvlog. And Troy Harder is looking like he really, really wants to take this position from Lance Snyder. But Snyder just having really good car placement and not allowing Troy Harder to take advantage of the some of the better corner exits that Troy Harder seems to have. And Lance Snyder is still holding on to that 9th position.
Yeah, Troy figuring he's probably a little bit faster here, but knowing he can't find a way by. If he could just find some clean air over a lap, he might be able to hold on to the position and actually pull at a gap. But it looks like if he's going to want to get past Lance Snyder, he's probably going to have to take a risk somewhere. And that might have been one of the opportunities there heading into the 14, 15, 16 complex there at just before the back straightaway.
Yeah, he definitely can't afford to peak out the way you saw him do. He just can't afford to take that aero drag with his lower top speed. He needs to stay as close to the back of Lance as he can and just try to hope that he can peak it out at the end of the straight. But he's not going to make a pass along straight.
And that's not a play on words on Troy's title sponsor, or perhaps it is, but...
Yeah, he's really going to have to find a way to take advantage of either traffic that they come across in the, well, I guess anywhere really, or he's going to have to find a way to sneak along the inside and through the back section of Sebring, because that is where he's faster than Lance Snyder. But once they get to the long straights, there's no way that he's able to get by or take advantage of some of the good runs he gets coming out of a corner. So really, he's going to have to play it smart and do some in-head calculations, to use Brian's word that he came up with earlier, to find the best way to try and find his way around Snyder.
I don't remember coming up with that word, but I guess I'm full of all sorts of random things that just come out of my mouth without really me being conscious of them. So
it definitely was. Go back and watch. Once it's published, go back and rewind it.
Fair enough. Sometimes I just turn myself on and let it happen.
You can see there's a couple of radicals here. That is Mike Kelly and Lauren Bateman. They are not fighting for a position. Lauren Bateman is currently a lap down on the rest of the field. You can see he pulls well off the line going into turn one. Troy Harder had a run coming through the turn number one, but couldn't do anything with it. Lance Snyder's car was there, so he'll have to give that up. And you can see both of them get past the radical of Mike Kelly as they head into turn three. So Troy Harder's not able to take advantage of that particular set of traffic, and Lance Snyder maintains that 9th position.
It's a little off the apex there, going, that's a tough corner to get around, basically going through that turn 7 hairpin. You really got to crank the steering over more than anywhere else on the track, and probably more than a lot of places here too. The hairpin that they had at Infineon was a little bit more, it was a little wider radius actually, so you didn't quite have to turn quite as hard. So it's a very, very difficult track, very difficult corner to get the car turned around. It looked like Troy had missed the apex quite badly there. I don't think he was going to be able to do anything if he had hit it properly, but just one of those things that when you're coming down there into turn 7, that's a place where you can gain a lot of time but also lose a lot of time. Is very, very difficult corner. I mentioned it was difficult.
And another difficult corner here, turn 16. Very tricky to
Anthony's
get right every
corner.
time. It is indeed, yes. That if I had to pick one corner that is my nemesis on the circuit, it would be that corner. That I struggle to get that corner correct every time, and looks
this
like
one's fine.
yes, I'd much rather prefer. Oh, and Trey Harder actually decided to dive into the pit lane and take an early pit stop. He can make it to the end here, filling up with fuel. But this is a bit early than we would expect most of the LMPs to make their pit stop. So what my guess would be, he's feels like he can't find a way around Lance Snyder, so he's just going to take a pit stop when he, as soon as he's able to make it to the end, and then hope that pit stops will play a part and he's able to get by in that way.
Oh, but that's Mike Kelly spinning around. So that's Mike. That was well, I think it was Lauren Bateman going by, but Lauren's a lap down.
Yeah.
So he didn't lose anything there. He's still 20 seconds. John Kuzo looks like that's retired. So
it looks like there's only 3, possibly 4. I think Carl Mumbauer is still out there running, and he's not really being shown much of a gap because he's a lap down from Lauren Bateman, who is also a lap down. But unfortunately, not a lot of radicals running. Russell Cow still leading, and Mike Kelly was about 17 seconds back from the lead when he had that spin, so he was in no danger of losing anything there. We're taking a look at the LMP of Jerry Mooresdorf right now, and he is in 12th position. As you can see, Troy Harder gets out of the pits in 11th position, so he only loses 1 spot after making his early pit stop. Taking a look at Rene Weisfeldt right now, and he's making his way through turn 1. A little bit oversteer there. Not really a spot you want to have that happen. It can be easily means you're into that Armco barrier over there. But he is still trying to chase down John Rosettos, who is in 5th place. You can see him right there in his number 8, Windows 8 for GT.
now one of the things, because there's so few radicals now we're driving around, every time you saw a radical, because they do look like kind of a shrunken down version of an HPD. I thought someone hit the Mario Kart lightning bolt there and shrunk down someone. I was getting all excited that maybe it was James that I could get past, but it turned out it was just one of the John Rosetto's slow lazy spin there. That's going to be Rene Weisfeldt getting the position from him. John Rosetto's down to 6th position, Rene up to 5th. And speaking of which, here's our LMP leader, James Cullen. He's got a 11 and a half second lead over Andy Fuller right now. So apparently the action on the track has ceased because we are now showing the LMP leader, which we hardly ever do unless they're involved in the battle. So actually good for James to get some television time. This is our championship leader. He's won 3 of the 4 races, second in the other one, and aside from him getting punted in the last race, we have hardly seen him all year. So good to see some of that James Cullen driving around. We used to see him quite a bit back when he drove the Ford GT and the Cadillac. The Cadillac in particular seemed like he was in every shot because he was always involved in the first battle, but not the case this year as much. But hopefully that'll tighten up for at least for our sakes here in the commentary booth. We are getting oh, look at that, a little bit of tail kicking out, just having fun. Kind of hoping he would have spun out there, even though I know he probably didn't, but still kind of had that little inkling of hope that he might. But
yeah, he's currently got about 13 seconds on second place Andy Fuller. So he's pulled out quite a lead there as we switch over to Matthew Voigt. And I believe, yes, we are going to see John Rossetto's in the pits as Matthew Voigt zooms on by into 6th place.
And now back to the overall race leader, James Cullen. And like Brian pointed out, I think the race that we had at Sonoma was probably the most we'd seen him in any of the broadcasts so far this season, because he was involved in quite a few little incidents throughout that race. So it's good to see him on circuit, not running into anybody or being run into. He's just turning out some consistent laps, and he's gapping the rest of the field quite nicely.
Yeah, I think it was his car that race that took a brunt of the damage from others, and not so much himself there. I think he did mention after the race he did have one incident by himself where he had clipped a wall, which obviously didn't help, but so you see him flying around one of the shrunken HPDs there, also known as a radical.
Oh, and this is someone in the...
John Kelly into the wall.
That's
a very
way
strange place to be into the wall, actually. I mean, I'd expect it further down in the corner that he would hit the wall.
This was, like I said, this is my nemesis corner, and it's I have been spun every which way in that corner there. I was 17, I was sunset.
Yeah, 17.
And back to James Cullen here. I was like, maybe we'll get some onboard from James. That'd be nice to kind of see how he goes around this corner, or how this circuit here. Pick up a few pointers. Or at least just kind of see. Otherwise, we've got the axe. I'm not sure what scent that is. He's
instinct, I think. Yeah.
Oh, instinct. Okay. I think everyone at home knows what instinct smells like. All right. Well, we're coming up on halfway here because it's a 75-minute race. 37 and a half minutes is halfway, so we're just 13 short of that right now. Which means we should start seeing any moment now regular LMP pit stops. I mean, they can probably go as late as 50 minutes into this race, so it's going to be a rather large window, but if someone has decided to split their strategies going 50-50, it'll happen this lap.
Oh, and also just want to point out that John Kuzland, who we had thought had retired earlier in the broadcast, is still out running. He's quite a bit back from the overall leader by 4 laps, but I just saw him. There he is, actually, in the back of the shots. So he is still running, turning laps, but unfortunately 4 laps down from Russell Cow.
Well, I don't think there was actually anything wrong with John's car. I think he just went into the pits to grab a chicken sandwich and make a couple phone calls. They are really good. That's Ford GT class leader Timothy Stahl being lapped by...
Or it's actually Dan Morera with his Hobbit-sponsored Ford GT with the dwarf on the front.
That's who that is.
I don't actually think it's the Hobbit. It looks like he has a dwarf on the front of his car, so...
That would not be good for aerodynamics. Oh, you mean like a picture of a dwarf?
Yeah, it's a picture of the dwarf. Yes, I
That
think
makes
that's
more
what it
sense.
is, anyways. Yes.
Yeah, this isn't lemons racing.
I have no idea what that means.
All right, well, you know, there's a series. There's the 24 Hours of Le Mans, of course, but there's also the 24 Hours of Lemons race series where the cars have to be worth under $500, and if you're caught infracting one of the rules, they weld a some kind of metal animal onto your car.
Okay, so
That sounds pretty
small
awesome.
humans on your car. Oh, Matthew.
Oh,
Boyd,
Matthew Voigt having an issue.
I think he exploded. He is a nuclear physicist, I believe, and I think an experiment has gone terribly wrong. Honestly, was there another car there?
I don't know. I think he might have. I don't know if he was a little overzealous and getting over as far as he can to those cones and hit the wall or what. But I couldn't see another car there.
James Vine's coming to the pits here, so I don't know what...
Yeah,
Nope, I stand by my first statement. He
an
mixed the wrong
experiment gone
tubes.
horribly wrong.
He thought it was just lemonade. It turned out it was uranium.
That's unfortunate for him. He was having a pretty good race. He's falling down to 8th place after that. That experiment gone wrong.
Yeah, radiation burns are nothing to joke about. That is serious stuff. Hopefully he has some iodine tablets handy, which I'm sure he does, but...
I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little dizzy after that.
Yeah,
We might want to
look
clear
away.
the area or something.
It's like, well, we'll take a 200-year break while the radiation breaks down. But anyways, Dan Marrera with not a small human on his car, just a picture of something from the movie. And then Lance Snyder looks like he's going to pass someone in the pits. Yeah, Brent Browse is in the pit lane right now. There's Brent, going very slowly.
So it looks like Brent Browse basically cutting his race stints in half, like Brian pointed out, as one of the possible strategies we could see play out for the LMP class. Riding on board now with the dwarf car of Dan Marrera as he makes his way through turn 16. He is actually fighting to pass James Mines, and that's a fight for 5th place.
And then we're back with race leader James Cullen, not yet to make a pit stop, so look for that to happen. He tends to make his a little earlier than some of his other competitors, but not too early. There's some drivers that are known for always pitting right at halfway, and some taking it to the John Kuzlin used to run these classic cars. He'd always go right to the end of the stint, but James kind of does it somewhere in the middle there. Actually, probably closer to the end, but very exciting shot of Brent's car being... oh, there he goes. That stuff's happening now. Right, he is out of the pits. It flashed up 74, but that was Renee Weissflog. There's Brent's coming out of the pits. James Cullen driving around, taking some corners, enjoying himself right now. He's got an 18.5 second lead over Andy Fuller. He's a little squirrely in some places there, so it's not like he's not trying, folks. He is definitely still pushing that car. Like I say, after what happened last race at Sonoma, anything can happen, and even though he had all those incidents, he was still only probably about 4 seconds behind the leader. So, here he's into the pits. So if this were real life, you'd see guys be jumping over the wall, doing stuff to the car. So it'd be very exciting. I assure you, it'd be extremely exciting here, unfortunately, in iRacing. We haven't focused on the simulation of the cars and the racing, not the pit crew. So you're going to see him into his pole and stop and wait. Oh, no, the car kind of hovered a little bit.
Yep, raise up just a little bit.
And Andy Fuller has gone into the lead.
Yep, so he'll collect a couple of bonus points for leading a lap, or I think
I'm not
one
sure
bonus
he will
point.
yet. Well, I guess he will at the end of next lap, but he was not leading at the beginning of this lap.
No, he was not leading. We're on board with Anthony News here, who is going to pass James, it looks like. As he seems to be running pretty much by himself at the moment. Very quickly, but pretty much by himself. And then going through turn 1 there, it's all of a sudden, holy crap, there's a Ford GT.
Yes, you do. You do catch Ford GTs very, very quickly going through turn 1. You think that there's a big enough gap between yourself and the Ford GT that you can pass them right on the as you're tracking out, or as you slip on the inside as you're exiting turn 1. But you catch those cars much more quickly than you expect, and especially in practice, it caught me out a couple times where I almost ran into the back of another Ford just because I wasn't expecting quite that speed difference that they have, and definitely have to be careful.
And we got Andy Fuller now. Like I say, unfortunately, it's not his regular paint scheme. For those of you who he's a regular on the server, or at least was anyway, when the HPD still ran multi-class in the servers. He'd run that a lot. He's also, like I said, our 2-time Grand Prix Championship ISRA champion. So this is his first race in the GTC, and he's very much looking forward to continuing the season. I think this is his preferred iRacing car, the HPD that we run here. Obviously very quick, as he was not all that far behind James, but now leading the race as James has made his pit stop. Right up against the wall there in turn 1. And like we were saying, when they're catching up to the Ford GT there, turn 1 in particular, because it narrows, but also it's a long, fast corner, and the LMP goes through there so much quicker than the Ford GT. But when the LMP commits to the corner, once you're committed at speed to the corner and there's someone up ahead of you, you can't slow down or really alter your trajectory. You're kind of committed to kind of track through the corner and roll out to the exit curb there. I mean, you can kind of get off the throttle a little bit, maybe cut it off a bit, but as far as closing speed, if there's a car up ahead of you and you don't time it right, there's really not a lot you can do, because if you hit the brakes or slow the car down, you're basically going to spin instantly and you're going to be in the wall. I mean, obviously the catch side to that is if you don't do that, you might run into the car ahead of you. So really got to be watching your screens there, see the gaps there, and that's an incredibly slow and lazy spin for Gilles Barrette there. That was possibly at 3 kilometers an hour, but just getting on the grass there still took him around. And brings him into range of Troy Harder.
And I believe that Gilles Barrette has made a pit stop at this point. So, and he is, Troy Harder getting very, very close. They're under braking. And so I think this is an actual battle for position at the moment. So we'll see how this turns out.
That early pit stop.
Yep, you're correct, Brian. They're both showing, or rather, Anthony, they are both showing as 1 lap down from the leader.
Let's see if Troy can have trouble getting past Lance Snyder. Can he get past Gilles Barrette? Oh, side by side going through this corner here. See if Gilles can come back, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to. However, we're going to see if Troy still has... Whoa! That was close. Troy still has that top line speed here, and if Gilles is able to make a run on him.
Looks like he might just be able to... It looks like he might have just got off the corner well enough to be able to stick ahead. And, oh no, he's going to try a dive on the inside going into 17. And it looks like Harder's going to have to give that one up. They go both very, very wide. It's very bumpy out there. And Gilles Barrette goes back into... what is that? 9th or 8th place, rather. And that allows him to keep that position.
That's my colleague Anthony Muniz into the pit lane. Looks like James Cullen just driving by there. Dan Quaroni also into the pit lane. Looks like I'm in the pits. Andy Fuller coming into the pits. And if you're wondering why I'm still sitting there, is because for some reason my crew decided to tank up my car full of fuel when I only needed less than half a tank. Or just over half a tank. And
that's actually a pretty costly mistake, just based on the amount of time that it takes to fill up the tank compared to what it would take over about half a tank. So unfortunately, that's going to cost you quite a bit of time. So that really takes you out of the battle that you could have had with Andy Fuller. And actually, you're going to lose a position to Jeremy Burris. So Jeremy Burris able to pick up a position over Brian Carey and move himself into 3rd place position because of that mistake. So that's going to be a close battle, and looks like you're about less than a second apart. So you lost probably about 19 seconds or so from that mistake.
I'd see, yeah, because I went into the pit stops about 3 seconds behind Andy Fuller, and I literally came out 20 seconds behind him. So 17 seconds lost because Johnny fuel tank, decided to keep his headphones on and didn't realize that the light had come on to pull the fuel tank out, and these LMPs don't tank up that quickly. So actually, if you gentlemen will excuse me, all this commentary is making me thirsty. I'm going to grab a cup of water and I'll be right back.
Well, we have some good action on screen to watch while Brian is gone. Troy Harder still trying to find a way past Gilles Moretz as they head down into turn 1. Looks like Lance Snyder is just in front of them, so Troy Harder actually losing some time over the man he was trying to pass when he made his pit stop. You can see him just up there entering into turn 3. So the battle is sort of resuming, although he's lost. Oh, and Gilles Moretz getting out of shape going through turn 4 there. That allows Troy Harder to take a look around the outside of as they head into turn 5, and I think he's going to have that position, and that allows him to now set his sights on Lance Snyder up there for 7th spot in the class. You can see, yep, Gilles Moretz falling down, looking, taking a look on the inside. Actually, he's going to do an outbraking into the hairpin. Wow, that was a very late maneuver. Not able to get the power down. They give it contact coming out of the hairpin, and wow, that is hard racing right there between those two competitors. And looks like they're going to be side by side heading to turn 10. Oh no. Troy Harder going to have to yield going into turn 10, but some close racing there. Late move by Gilles Moretz going into the hairpin, and it worked out for him. He's able to maintain the position.
Is that Gilles Moretz or Gilles Villeneuve? But no, I'm just looking at the screen here. It's actually Gilles Moretz. But it does look like he has a Gilles Villeneuve-inspired helmet, if I get a closer look on that. So that being said, that was actually some pretty entertaining stuff. I came back down just as that action was heating up there.
It came back just in time, and Gilles Moretz able to reclaim that position after losing it going through the twisty turns 3, 4, and 5 section of Sebring. And that was a very bold move going into the hairpin, and they made it stick. So close racing, and looks like none of them received any damage from that contact they had exiting the turn 7 hairpin, so it did work out for both of them, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, we got James Cullen coming up behind these guys too, so his nearly 20-second lead over Andy Fuller is now down to under 10 seconds after the pit stops have shaken out, and now he's going to lose a little bit more time as he has to navigate his way around this battle, so maybe a chance for Andy Fuller to make this a race for the lead. Time will tell. I mean, it's still a massive gap, but being much less massive than it was before the pit stops.
And it looks like Cullen is going to be able to take advantage of his faster top speed that he has over Troy Harder and get by as they head down into turn 7. He'll take advantage of that. And oh wow, Jeremy Burris way wide exiting turn 1. You can see Brian Carey there on the inside as they head into turn 3. That's going to allow him to get by and retake 3rd position away. Let's see if Burris can fight back. Looks like he's going to be out of momentum coming back on the track at a weird angle. Ooh, and that is another, I believe that's a Whoop-Ass Racing. I believe that might be
just Brent Bryles. Apparently.
So everyone going off the circuit there in the first 5 corners here at Sebring. But Brian Carey
coming through, you don't mess around.
Yeah, I guess not. Yep. Brian Carey able to move his way back up into 3rd place because of the mistake from Jeremy Burris. So despite that mistake, Carey back up into 3rd from his pit crew, I should say. He's back up into 3rd place, although well off of Andy Fuller for 2nd. And Troy Harder, meanwhile, is still trying to find a way around Gilles Moretz. Looks like they might have, with that little tap they had, they might have equaled themselves out in overall top speed with aero damage, although it didn't quite have enough to get around as they head into turn 17.
Yeah, no, it looks like that Troy's still a little down on top speed here, but oh, look like his car got right up in the air there. There's some of the graphical effects going over that bump, but it should be a pretty entertaining battle.
And Lance Snyder is really enjoying these two fighting it out so hard because he's managed to get roughly 5 seconds in front of Gilles Moretz. So that means that he's no longer under threat from either of these two drivers as we're on board the front nose of Moretz right now as they head out of turn 5 and down towards the turn 7 hairpin.
I think there's a car on the inside of him. It sounds like it. Yep, you can hear it. Wondering why I wasn't going over to the right side of the track. That's because Troy was there, and obviously we're going to switch to this.
Well, this is an equally close battle here between James Mines and Eduardo Peninka, and as they are higher up in the rankings in their class, they get the focus.
Yep, this is actually a battle for third place in the 4 GTs, and James Mine is looking to see if he can't find his way past Benica, or Beninka. I actually think that is the proper way to say it, if you say it in the accent for, I believe he's from...
Portugal. Well, I mean, Brazil, but Portuguese.
Okay, yes. And unfortunately losing a little bit of time there as the Radical John Kuzlin sneaks by there going through turn 1. And we'll look back at the battle for third place in LMPs. Brian Carey now holding that position as he took it away from Jeremy Burris, and who, let's see if he's able to claw his way back up. Right now, the gap is over 1 second, so Carey able to put a little bit of comfort between himself and Burris within the last couple laps.
Driving mad at this point. But just to point out for those at home, as we came into pits at the same time, Jeremy's car will have both cars with fresh tires, but Jeremy's car will have approximately 25 kilograms less fuel on board. And these cars are light enough as is, and the 25 kilograms I'd say would be not quite a second a lap, but pretty close.
It's significant.
In terms of lap time. Yeah, like it's nothing to sneeze at. Let's put it that way.
No, I think this car, probably more than any other that I've driven, is impacted by the weight of the fuel on board.
Yeah, actually, pretty much any other aside from the Formula One car.
Yeah.
Well, even that one, I mean, it definitely, the difference between full and empty is huge, but I don't feel as quite that there's like that drop off right with that first 15 kilograms in the HPD that I haven't experienced with the Formula One car.
So I've had enough experience in the F1. The F1 car is so massively, sensitive to like weight, aero. The HPD is too, but the F1 car is. The HPD is. Let's put it this way: they're both significant enough. Anytime where you have only a 60 kilogram fuel tank, as you do in the HPD, and you take half of that out, 30 kilograms, it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Formula One carries much more fuel, and actually is a much lighter car in and of itself. So,
and actually, the extra weight that is on Carey's car doesn't seem to be affecting the overall pace between these two drivers. He's actually managed to extend the gap over Jeremy Burris by about half a second over the last lap, and you can see visually the gap is quite a bit bigger since the last time we looked at these two cars. So. Brian Carey currently having a very, very good second stint in this race, and trying his best to see if he can't put a bit of a gap between himself and Jeremy Burris after making that mistake in the pit lane.
Yeah, like I say, I never quite got that corner there, and you see Jeremy bouncing through it. Also, turn 1-2 has a pretty big bump. It's a little easier to avoid because it's not quite on the right line, but going through Sunset there's just certain bumps in certain places. And after you do a few laps here, well, a few hundred laps here, you get to know where they are and kind of when you expect them, but they do catch you from by surprise on occasion. So I'm pointing out the 4 GTs that our Kaiser Rennsport teammate Corey Davis is up to second place right now, and I think all the pit stops have been made. I don't want to say that for sure because as soon as I say that, you'll see him rolling into the pits.
No, he's made his pit stop. I did see him enter, so he is done. I believe Timothy Stoll also, who is currently leading the 4 GTs, has also made his pit stop as well. And we'll jump on board with James Mines, who's currently running in fourth, as you can see on your screen. Currently trying his best to chase down Eduardo Benica for that last step of the podium. And right now he's about a second and a half back from that third place position. He was very, very close at one point and challenging for that third place position, so hopefully he's able to make up that time and get back up there to the front. Because actually, I've just noticed that James Mines is running a new livery on his car. It's a much more prominent Red Bull sponsorship on that Ford GT.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the difference in the engine notes too. Not so much the engine itself, but just the throttle application. The Ford GT has approached the HPD through some of these corners. The HPD a little bit. Oh, Eduardo is off the track. We're back on. It looks like James has got a huge run on him. He'll probably take the position, although he's not ideal to go around. And whoa, he's got it. Well, you can see him sneaking around there the outside.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot to pass, especially there on the outside like Mines did, but he was able to pull it off, and that moves him up into third place. And I'm sure Benica is going to be pushing hard to try and get that back. Ooh, he's run wide coming out of turn 16. Luckily, he didn't spin it there. That's actually pretty easy to do if you catch too much curb and then dip a couple wheels off there into the dirt. Luckily, he's able to recover from that, and he is currently about a second behind James Mines, so that battle will resume, although the places are reversed now. James Mines holding on to that third spot.
So we're just under 15 minutes left in the race here. I'm just going to do a recap here. We'll start with the LMPs. James Collins, our leader, over Andy Fuller by about 11 seconds, who's a further 23.5 seconds ahead of Brian Carey. Brian Carey is about 3 seconds ahead of Jeremy Burris, with Anthony Muniz in 5th place, and another 3 and a bit seconds beyond that. In the Radicals, we have Russell Cal running in the lead, 43 seconds ahead of Mike Kelly, who's a certain distance above Lauren Bateman, 2 laps it appears now, who's another lap ahead of Carl Mumbauer, who's another lap ahead of John Kuzlin, who's 18 laps ahead of Julio Placio, and Mark Perez is lost somewhere in the Everglades. Then Timothy Stahl there in the Ford GT has been our leader throughout. Corey Davis in 2nd place, about 15 seconds behind him. James Mines a further 14 behind Corey. Eduardo Benica, as we just saw that happen before, he's dropped to about 5 seconds behind James Mines, with John Risotto another 26 seconds back in 5th position.
And we're watching Troy Harder right now, who is looking to... He's actually chasing down Lance Snyder right now. This is a battle for 7th spot, and he is about 2.5 seconds back from Snyder. You can just see him up there in the going through, what is that, turn 14, I believe. And
a certain number.
It is, yeah, it's a number between 1 and 17, so you can see making their way through Le Mans right now. I know that is turn 16. You can see Lance Snyder just in front, getting held up a little bit by Ford GT traffic, and that is Eduardo Benica. And so that gap is coming down a little bit. Troy Harder managed to make his way past Gilles Moret at some point. I believe you saw that going down into the, well, we didn't actually see it. We were about to see it going through turn 7. So he's moved his way back up, and now he's resumed his battle with Lance Snyder.
Anthony Muniz here trying. Oh, that's someone has spun. That was Burris. Burris has spun. That was going through, heading through turn 15 there. It looks like he caught the curve and spun around. So Anthony Muniz is up to 4th position. And Muniz is only about 8 seconds behind Brian Carey for 3rd place. So that's a lot closer than it had been. So that's Muniz up another position. Not qualifying as well as he had been up to this point of the year, but definitely making up for it in the race. I'm not just saying that because he's not sitting beside me, as you guys have probably figured out. We're in 3 different locations. Don't quite have the budget for that yet.
One day. And a nice onboard shot with Troy Harder as they make their way through turn 17. You can see just how difficult it can be making your way through that corner. You can say Ford GT. I believe that is James Mines. Yes, it is indeed. So that is, he's making his way past the 3rd place Ford GT, trying to catch Lance Snyder, and that gap has opened back up to about 2.5 seconds. So Harder not getting through traffic as well as Lance Snyder seems to be. Can see him just up there. So looks like there's some clean air in front of both of those drivers now. Not a whole lot of traffic they'll having to be dealing with. So it'll come down to who has the better overall pace, and we'll see if Troy Harder can't resume his battle that he was having with Snyder earlier in the race. Oh, and John Rosettos has another lazy spin coming through the turn 7 hairpin, and he's losing some time, but not any positions. And he is a good 20-some seconds in front of Dan Morera, so he's in no danger of losing any positions unless he has a very severe incident somewhere on the circuit.
Just pick a spot on the wall there and try to watch it. You can see the camera bouncing up and down just how severe the bumps are here at Sebring.
Yeah, that's one thing I was noticing on the onboards here at the LMPs in particular. I don't get a feel for, unless you can kind of see it a little bit there, and you can kind of see it in some of the shots, but the onboard, you really don't get an appreciation for it. But you really do, for those of us with the force feedback there, you can really tell as you're driving down the road that wheel is shattering pretty good.
A lot of these, the bumps that you find here that make Sebring so iconic because the circuit is so old. I don't believe it's really ever been repaved. I know the original concrete slabs that you see, they're going on the front straight. I guess it would be going over the timing line, and then turn 1. I believe those are all original, dating all the way back to the World War II era, where this would host I believe it was bomber squadrons, or it was a training ground, one of the two. So this is a very, very old circuit, and a lot of people have considered, repaving this and making this a nice flat surface like we've seen Silverstone do.
Yeah.
Yep, which is basically in the same thing. Was the same thing. It was a World War II air base that was used, and they, like so many of circuits, especially over in Europe, but so far they've decided to keep this pretty much all original, and I like that they've kept it all original. I know a lot of drivers are thinking that eventually these bumps are gonna get so bad that we won't really be able to race here, but hopefully it doesn't come to that, because it does give this circuit an identity.
It's actually a good track for IndyCar likes testing here, because the surface does simulate rather closely the actual street tracks that they use, which obviously you can't test at because they're only set up for the weekend of the race. So it's really good for them to test those packages here. But I always like to point out too that both World War II era bases. I believe this was one of the training squadrons out of obviously in Florida here, which I believe Silverstone saw a little bit more action in the war.
Yeah.
All right, back on board. Troy Harder's not really closing the gap all that much to Lance Snyder. I mean, it's been around 2 seconds for a little bit. It kind of ebbs and flows, but I remember earlier in the race, before he made his pit stop, he wasn't able to get by him then, and even after the pit stop shook out, he wasn't able to make up the ground on his own. So Lance in 7th, Troy in 8th, really just kind of fighting amongst themselves right now. As actually no, Gilles Moret's only about 8 seconds beyond this battle here, so if they got together, one of them spun off, Gilles would close right up, if not pass. Holy crap, it's a radical. Who was that?
One of the very few radicals here that are actually running. Can't actually see who that was right in this particular shot. Looks like that might be the overall race radical leader, Russell Cowell, I believe.
What? But Russell Cowell is just like a name filler we used at the front of the leader, because if we didn't have anyone else, he just defaults to the front. Well, there he is, number 63.
You can see him slowing down quite a bit, just letting these two drivers through. He's in no threat of losing his number 1 position currently. He's 40, almost 50 seconds in front of Mike Kelly at the moment. So he is feeling no pressure to drive full out at this point in the race.
Yeah, well, we're just under 7 minutes left. You can see the battles here. This is a big one right now for someone's position in the LMPs. Just looking through the rest of my timing here, and
Probably about the only battle.
Eduardo Benica is about 4 seconds behind James Mines, but that's pretty much it. This be it, folks. Oh, there's Mike Kelly in the wall. Oh, wall. Oh, that's hopefully he's in. That's gonna. I mean, he's only got a 2-lap lead right now, folks. So hopefully that extremely hard contact with the wall didn't destroy his. Actually, I shouldn't joke, because definitely there's some damage in iRacing that they will park you for. I mean, it seems drivable enough, but I think Mike with his. It's just a 1-lap lead right now over Lauren Bateman. So. And with the Radicals, what are they getting around here? Just around 2 minutes flat, something like that? Just under? 155?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we are winding down to the final stages of this race, where the clock says under 5:30 right now, and of course that depends on when the overall race leader, James Cullen, crosses the line, is when we'll have the white flag. But not a whole lot of laps left, so... I'm sure that Troy Harder is probably hoping for a mistake from Lance Snyder to allow him to catch back up and make a pass. Right now, he's being shown about 1.2 seconds back from Snyder, so that gap has come down a little bit. Ooh, and Stephen Clark has a slow spin coming into turn 7. Looks like he just took a little bit too much speed going into that corner. He's actually going to... No, he's not going to lose a position. Dan Morera actually in front of him already. So Stephen Clark a lap down. You can see Morera going through right there. So not really having an impact with Clark at all, as he's... Looks like he's most likely the last car running in the 4 GTs. Everyone else has, unfortunately, retired.
And since this is a virtual car, he can pretty much do whatever he wants with it at this point, but he's going to try to finish strong, as Troy Harder now is, still right around 2 seconds behind Lance Snyder, so it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do a lot with this, unless Lance makes a mistake or gets caught up with traffic. But Lance has been pretty solid so far this race. Haven't seen much in the way of mistake. Actually, I haven't seen any in the way of mistakes from him. Just looking at some of the stat sheets here, Lance, I think by far right now is the leading the way in Clean Driver Award. He's very, very few incidents the entire season. The last few races are clean. And this one looks to be clean as well. See, one of the things Lance does is he is I say professional corner marshal, but I have a feeling they don't get paid all that much, if anything at all. But that's what he does for a lot of his weekends during the summer, so he doesn't like to see cars crunched up in real life, so he doesn't drive his virtual car the same way. Also, the rock gods will destroy him if he breaks that car. You know what's funny, and he's going to just kick my ass for saying this, but I'm trying to think, and although I'll recognize Iron Maiden when I hear it, I can't name one of their songs. I have no idea what they're called. All I know is, I recognize T-shirts, and it's one of those things, you know it when you see it, and you know when you hear it.
Keep your radio tuned to the light radio stations, eh?
What?
I'm just saying, you prefer light rock. Oh no! Troy Hutter definitely not preferring light rock as he piles it into the Armco.
Oh, jeez, that was unfortunate there. That's too bad for Troy. He's held on for so long in this race, and that's a tough one there. It's like no, I definitely do not prefer the light rock stuff. I'm just trying to think of the names of any of the songs. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's not Iron Maiden. That's not Iron Maiden. I just don't happen to know what they're called.
No, I confess I don't either. I feel like I played some of them in Rock Band, haven't I? Or no, that's Metallica. No, I don't think
no.
Iron
Iron Maiden's not in Rock Band, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Lance can provide us with a list there. I might actually get on to YouTube after this to check out some of the music videos just to see. Sure, one or two of them will pop out, if not more.
Run to the Hills, Number the Beast. Those are in Rock Band. Yes, I knew I'd played those.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got it now.
Yeah, see, that's you know him when you hear him. You just
Yeah.
I don't know. They don't come to because I know those songs, but they don't come to my mind when you say what are some Iron Maiden songs. It's just.
Well, I'm not sure if it's a big band with you guys here as we're coming up to 1 minute left as the action is not all that intense anymore. I guess this is James lapping people, but I went to a festival. This is like over 10 years ago now, but Collective Soul was the headliner for the night. And I knew of Collective Soul, and I listened to them, and I started playing songs, and I realized I knew each and every one of those songs, but I had no idea that it was Collective Soul. Like, I swear to God, it was like 10 songs into their set. I'm like, okay, why don't I recognize this any of like, I mean, I know the words to all these songs, I just had no idea that that's who sang them.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
And it was a day after like a George Thorogood concert where one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer lasted 36 minutes. Because I think he forgot to finish. Like, oh, I'm back to the chorus, right? Just keep going. Keep singing it. I'll figure out what's happening.
Oh, hey, look at this. With just 10 seconds left on the clock, there's actually a battle sort of developing. It's Dan Herrera, and he is somewhat close to John Rossetto's, about 2 seconds or so. Can't actually see him in the camera shot right now. Maybe once we if we jump on board here with Dan
That was like
Herrera,
20 seconds a few laps ago.
It was actually. That's dropped down dramatically after Rossetto's had that spin. There he is actually right now. So they're pretty close, and they're going to have one. Dan Herrera's going to have one lap to get this done if he has anything for Rossetto's. He's really got to lay it all on the table right now.
Yeah, they started inside music there, and suddenly a battle develops out on track. Next week we'll start a discussion about pipe cleaners and duct tape and the things you can do with them. But for now we've got Dan Herrera coming up behind John Rossetto's, and he's really got that gap down. You can see it right now, and it is visually closing. He is really running them down right now. I don't know if John's taking any damage from one of his other offs. We'll hear another big tank slapper there from John. He's able to hold together. And Random Radical.
That is
People
finishing the race. And here's James Cullen taking the win.
Looks like that's James Vines locking up third place. So that's Timothy Stoll and Corey Davis, 1-2 in the 4 GTs. The battle, though, is for 5th position. It's about half a second right now. We're not seeing it because we're watching these guys come across the line. That's Andy Fuller taking second place. Good job in his first race here. Here we go. This is what we're looking for.
And coming out of turn 10 down towards turn 13, the gap is almost non-existent. And you can see Dan Herrera closing right up on that back bumper. John Rossetto is getting a little bit of oversteer going through 13, and that gap is gone. And Dan Herrera looking to find a way through as they, ooh, wow, that was close as they had to turn 14.
He's not getting by there, folks. I mean, that's not a lap 1 move. That is a lap, 38 move, I guess, in this case. That's last lap right now. Oh, John cutting him off there in the exit. Dan couldn't get the run on him because he was right there.
And Rosetto's was so wide going through Le Mans there as they head down on the Ullman straight. We're going to be on the inside as they head towards turn 17. It's going to be the last of the late breakers. It's going to be so hard for Rosetto's to stay on the outside. You can see, looks like, Dan Morales got the position going into turn 17. Let's see if Rosetto's can do the undercut. Oh, and we're going to look at points.
Standings? No.
Looks like that.
Unfortunately, for some reason, I think because of what happened with the, we can see the finish right there as Rosetto puts it into the wall out of frustration. All right, quick run down the points. James Cullen leading with 100 points in the HPDs. Brian Carey, Anthony Muniz trailing there. Then a huge gap to Daniel Corning, 4th, and 5th was also 46 points down from the leader. Radicals, Russell Cow with 100 points. Warren Bateman, 22 points down. Then John Kuzlin and Mike Kelly tied, actually, for third. Colin Mumbrow and Colin McLean battling out very close, 1 point apart for fifth. Eduardo Beninca, the first leader without a perfect score here of 91 points. But Corey Davis and Daniel Gralty tied for second in the 4 GTs. Timothy Stahl's not too far behind. Todd Carver uncharacteristically dropping back, but I think that's just due to missed races. Yeah.
So that got boring in the middle, but kind of heated up right at the end there. All right, well, the schedule now, next week, actually for us tomorrow, we're going to be starting the 2 hours of Suzuka, which we're looking forward to. It's a great track there, get a full 2 hours in. Then down to Zolder, which, well, it's spelled strangely, but okay. Anyways, Zolder, which will be a very interesting track. We ran there last year, but these cars will be interesting. Watkins Glen, a favorite. Phillip Island, same way. And then ending the year at Road Atlanta, which is the probably the best endurance track we have here outside of Sebring, which we're running now.
It's phonetic. Actually, that might be the correct spelling.
I think that is how you spell it, yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the spelling, I just got me off guard.
Well, thank you, guys. Anthony Muniz and Brian Carey here for announcing with me. And thank you, as always, to ISRA League, the admins and racers who make this all possible. We will see you again real soon. Have a good night.